Can the world be stabilized again through sanctions against Russia? Hi everyone, today I would like to talk about the broad-scale sanctions against Russia. These are my presentation's contents today. First of all, I would like to talk about the cause and background of sanctions against Russia-Ukraine war. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine begins with the territorial dispute on the Crimean Peninsula, a peninsula bordering the Black Sea at the southernmost tip of Ukraine. Crimea belonged to Russia in 1783, but became part of Ukraine after the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991. Ukraine was promised to the United States, Russia, and the United Kingdom in 1994 for the preservation of Ukraine's territorial integrity, including Crimea, and the security guarantees in Ukraine. However, when Russia annexed Crimea by force in 2014, other countries that signed the security memorandum only objected and took no further action. Russia's annexation of Crimea sparkled discussions about Ukraine's accession to NATO. Meanwhile, when pro-Western forces came to power in Ukraine in 2014, Ukraine's accession to the EU was also discussed. If Ukraine became a member of the EU, it would naturally lead to NATO membership, so Russia sent troops to Crimea to force territorial annexation. As a result, civil war broke out in eastern Ukraine, and military conflicts between the United States and Russia got worse. Finally, on February 24, 2022, Russia's invasion of Ukraine began with an emergency speech by Russian President Vladimir Putin about carrying out a special military operation in Ukraine. Then let's move on to today's presentation's core content. There are three major economic sanctions by Western powers. The first one is withdrawal of multinational companies from Russia. According to Yale University researchers, nearly 1,000 Western companies have pledged to either completely withdraw from the Russian market or reduce their operations in Russia following the invasion of Ukraine. One example is McDonald's, which has announced its withdrawal from the Russian market and the sale of its assets in Russia. Since then, more than 800 stores have been acquired by Russian entrepreneurs. The withdrawal of McDonald's became a huge issue, unlike other companies, because McDonald's is considered a symbol of capitalism. Next sanction is suspension of Russian most favored country status and membership in international organizations. In the fourth sanctions in March 2022, the European Union coordinated with the G7 to remove Russia's most favored nation status from the WTO, allowing the EU to impose punitive tariffs on Russian goods. In addition, international organizations such as the IMF and the WB have suspended Russia's membership. Declining energy imports from Russia is the last sanction that I would introduce today. On May 13, 2022, the EU agreed to a ban on imports of 70% of Russian oil as part of sanctions against Russia and to reduce imports of Russian oil by 90% by end of the year. However, the import of crude oil through sea transportation was suspended, but Russian crude oil brought in through pipelines was excluded from the embargo. In addition, the United States, Britain, and Canada announced that they would ban all Russian oil imports by March 2022. Then, is there any limit of the sanctions against Russia? Of course there are. It has several limitations, but I'm going to point out just three limitations today. Firstly, the company's accounting will get damaged. Especially, McDonald's is expected to record an accounting loss of $1.2 billion to $1.4 billion due to the withdrawal from Russia, and a large oil company also incurred losses of $3.4 billion after shutting down after shutting down oil and gas fields in Russia's Far East. Rising oil prices and energy crisis are also critical. The director of SAFIC expects that in 2022, rising energy prices will slow European industrial production and overall economic growth. It will be difficult to make up for this sluggish growth as purchasing power is reduced due to the rising energy cost. Oil prices are rising rapidly as well. Last but not least, the Russian invasion of Ukraine has caused a global shortage of food and oil supplies. Ukraine, where war is underway, is called the world's grain warehouse because the Middle East and Africa depend heavily on Ukraine's grain. The war is not over yet, and no one knows how long the repercussions of the war will last. We will always have to keep an eye on the change in the world and react sensitively. Thank you.